Welcome back to the podcast with Schmo and Shades. The podcast, Season 1, the Renaissance Podcast, Episode 3, An Adventurer's Travels and a Story Untold. Special guests are in this episode. Enter at your own risk. You guys came here for real, and you're going to get it. Thank you for clicking on Episode 3. You guys don't know how appreciative we are of it.
No doubt.
We are so sorry for our long hiatus. You guys know how it goes. One thing here, one thing there. Some things don't go as planned.
Well, Schmo, that's life.
That's right. And it's really unfortunate, but if you have any questions about the adventures we were undertaking, feel free to email us using the link below.
Maybe we should talk about our individual escapades on this particular podcast, Schmo.
Maybe we will. I have to think about it.
So, up next on the podcast, we have an adventurer who traveled this country of America, and he's going to share us his story about how he explored the world. We are so thankful that we're having a special guest. We're really appreciative.
We're really appreciative, guys,
that one of our fans have stepped up to home plate, and they're going to take a swing by coming on this podcast to share their opinions on a certain topic. If one of you guys at home have a certain topic that you're really passionate about, email us. But that's all you gotta do. Email us and we'll get back to you probably. We'll do everything in our power to get you on to the podcast.
Guys.
This lucky fan right here, he did just that, and look where he is. He is.
He's on the podcast. He's on the podcast, guys.
That's what we said. He's on the podcast. We do have a special guest for the first time in this podcast's history. With that, we introduce our first ever special guest. His name is Curious George 2.0.
Hey guys, thanks for bringing me on. It feels like an honor to be.
The reason everyone calls you Curious George 2.0 is, because you're curious and interested in not only yourself, but the world around you.
Yes, there's a whole big world out there we don't know.
Curious George 2.0, you are the epitome of this podcast. You know why?
Why?
Well, because when we first made this podcast, one of our many goals was to show people that exploring the world
exploring the world
to take on that challenge is one of the many gifts of the human experience. Many of the Renaissance men,
like Durer.
No, not like Durer, but people like Da Vinci, people who are really inspiring, did exactly what you're going to talk to us about today. They explored their own countries to
explore the world,
gain an inspiration for their own undertakings. Guys, they really explored their own. There's really no translation. Their own pietas.
You can say duty.
Their own
duty.
Pietas.
Their own duty.
Their own pietas, and I think it's important for people to have a craving to explore and act on that little itch.
The little itch can be anywhere.
Little itch that's been haunting them their own lives. You, young man, you did exactly that.
So, Curious George, I now ask you, what made you think I'm gonna share my story with the podcast? Why did you come on?
Well, I think this is an interesting podcast, and I started listening to it on Spotify.
I think this is sort of a similar experience that all of our listener audience has had. To relate here with Curious George 2.0, that you listen to the podcast and you gain inspiration from it, and
Yeah.
you go and do something with it. Go on.
Right. And I think that's what you guys are trying to do. And, I think that's a really cool thing. And so I came on here to share my story about how this podcast inspired me to take a pretty
Take a
lengthy
chance.
To
trip.
Take a chance.
Take a chance with the world.
Yeah. And let's get into it.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question. Why did you want to take this trip to begin with? Where was that little itch? Was it in your heart, perhaps? Where exactly was it? Where was that little itch?
I know where my itch is.
Such a joker. Well, I feel like everyone lives their life. They go to their corporate job. They grind a 9 to 5 every day, and they never see the world until they're like 70 years old and can't really do much. And they take a stupid little destination trip.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well,
What's that supposed to mean?
Well,
expand on that.
Well, I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't like a destination trip, but if you just fly to Hawaii and you sit on the beach and have
What's wrong with that?
Have a couple pina coladas, you're not seeing much. You're just
yes, you are.
You're just on the beach in Hawaii.
I think Shades. I think we're at odds here. I'm sort of in agreement with Curious George 2.0 here.
Oh, now you're in agreement with him. You're my co-host, bro.
I think that he has the right attitude about this. I think destination trips. I think they don't really allow you to explore.
Right.
You can't go beyond that beach, that one location. You don't.
Yeah, I get what you're saying to a certain extent, but at the same time, I think some people, instead of exploring, they want to take a vacation to relax from their daily 9 to 5.
Here's the thing. I feel like they go to these nice hotels and they stay at the nice hotel and they go to the beach outside the nice hotel and then they go to a nice dinner at night. It's like 5 minutes from the nice hotel.
Sometimes
what's wrong with that?
Sometimes it's even in the hotel.
Yeah.
In fact.
And I'm
in
not
the
saying
resort.
there's something wrong with it. Everyone's, entitled to relax the way they want to, but there's 195 countries in the world. There is 50 states in the United States.
Wow.
There is so much to see.
Got a little geographer over here.
You're focused in the 5-mile radius. Why?
Well, you really remind me of someone. You know who that is?
Who, Shades?
Chris McCandless from Into the Wild.
I've heard about
You know who that is?
Wow.
I never watched Into the Wild, but I've heard a lot of things about it.
You were kind of supposed to have read it in preparation for.
I mean,
you
did read it.
I guess, but we keep.
We told you to read it,
and we have real conversations.
Well,
and
no, I mean
it's everyday. It's everyday life.
You were supposed to prepare.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
You're supposed to prepare for this podcast.
Hold on. All right, whatever. All right, I'm just gonna cut that out.
At least you were real with us.
We'll move on.
Real.
That's what this podcast is about: being real.
I mean, he is right with that, Schmo.
Yep, being real. Okay. All right.
Yep, that's everyone's excuse these days.
Yep. All right. So back to the trip. What day did you leave? What was your ultimate goal? Curious George 2.0. Get into the details. What were the details?
Well, I left for my trip at the beginning of June.
What day?
What day?
Was
it Tuesday? Was it Monday?
Yeah, it was a Friday actually.
Okay, an interesting choice.
Why traffic on Friday?
A lot of traffic on Friday, but good deals on flights, I guess, right?
Wait, you took a plane?
Well, yes. To start. Well, the plane was the start of it.
And where exactly did you go?
To Atlanta.
So you flew from here, unspecified location, to Atlanta.
Right.
Atlanta, as in the Greek mythological city of Atlanta?
No, domestic travel.
What?
Oh, okay.
Ah,
Yes.
Yeah,
all right.
Atlanta, Georgia.
That's one of the biggest airports in the world.
Yeah,
You must have been.
It's the busiest in the world, actually.
You must have been very nervous if you were by yourself.
How?
But were you by yourself?
I did fly by myself.
Oh,
Yes.
Sounds a
Whoa.
little brave, courageous.
Yeah,
That's
but it's a cool airport. They have a plane train and
Oh
it's
yes,
it's
like a monorail type thing. Right?
yeah, underground. Really
Were
easy to
you?
get between terminals and
How was your flight? Was the flight good?
tell us about the flight. Were you? What seat were you in? Were you
well,
in the aisle, the middle?
Were you in
well,
economy,
when
first class?
when you fly to Atlanta, Delta's based out of Atlanta, and so there's a ton of flights on
Okay.
Delta. So that's what I flew in.
You flew to Delta aircraft.
Right. Yes.
Okay,
And
that's important.
I got
that's an important detail that people
I got
would
in
miss.
the emergency exit row, so I had a lot of leg room.
Oh, but that's an important row. They ask you before you take your flight.
I mean, God
Are you
forbid,
ready
knock
for
on
the
wood.
exit row?
Curious George 2.0. I think they saw those flight attendants that day. I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I'm gonna say I think they saw what we saw in you, Curious George 2.0. The ability to have the courage to handle those kind of situations and do
Exit row is no joke. It's no joke. And you did just that.
I'm flattered, and I hope it was more than the surface level of just you got to have someone young and active to operate the row. But I appreciate the vision.
You did just that, though. You should really be proud of yourself for
well thank
handling
you,
that
Shades.
stuff.
Thank you.
Big job.
All right.
Thank you,
Well,
Sean.
tell us the next part of your trip.
Well, so I landed into Atlanta, and I went to a friend's house, and we kicked it off with some fireworks on a golf course.
Oh,
Yeah.
a golf course.
Fireworks. Is that perhaps a little bit of mischievous? Is that illegal in that state, perhaps?
Well,
yeah.
Well, it's legal actually to light them off into the air.
Okay.
And they're actually pretty cheap, like $20 for like 10 ones that go off
cheap.
in the air.
That's not cheap, but
it's
cheaper.
It's
for
cheaper than New Jersey.
Fireworks.
Well, all right. For a wealthy man such as yourself, I think that might be considered cheap. I can't relate.
Well, when you split it I split it like 5 ways, so it was like $3, $3.50 a person.
Right.
So how high did the fireworks
should
go?
have specified that. But they went up like I don't know, about 200 feet in the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
Curious George.
So
that's no joke.
That's how we started things, and it was a good start. The start is something great. And
then from what we were talking about before the podcast, you had a rental car, correct? Or what car did you take?
Well, my friend had a SUV that we took.
What brand?
It was a Jeep.
Oh God.
Of course you'd use a Jeep.
It's an American car. They're not built to go long distances, but
it made it all the way across the country. No mechanical
not reliable.
problems.
That's all I'm gonna say.
No mechanical problems at all, actually. But
we both think that was a poor choice on your end, but it's all right.
Well, I mean, okay.
I'm not gonna judge you as a person, Curious George 2.0, based on that. But I mean, it's definitely not a good look. That's
kind of a deal breaker.
Well, it wasn't my car, and so.
All right.
Okay, where you travel to first?
So after Atlanta, we went to St. Louis, Missouri.
Ooh. Did you try their ribs?
No. Did not have ribs in St. Louis.
So what did you experience in St. Louis that was different from where we currently live? Unspecified location. Yeah,
so St. Louis, my friend had has some family who lives there, and so we stayed over at their house, and we had some St. Louis style pizza, which is interesting.
Is it which pizza's better, here from unspecified location or in St. Louis?
Food's an interesting thing, and I don't always say something's better. I mean, I think they're both unique.
I would say you probably have better or worse food, but
I mean, I guess so, but I think there's something to appreciate about both. But I do think the pizza is better in the unspecified location.
Good.
Okay.
I agree.
I completely agree. Yeah.
But you should try the St. Louis pizza because they use a special kind of cheese that you don't see anywhere else.
What's the cheese called? St. Louis cheese?
It totally was cheese?
Stupid cheese.
Yeah.
Google is your friend, and I'm gonna look it up. Provel cheese. Provel cheese.
Prove cheese.
Prove cheese.
Yes.
So what else did you do in St. Louis? Tell us about the Arch.
Cheese.
So we went to the Arch in St. Louis. Weren't able to go to the top of it, but got to walk around the park and see that. And it's really a lot bigger than it seems.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you could actually go. No,
approximately how many feet or meters would you say is said arch?
Well, I'm an American and I use feet, so
man of freedom.
Yeah. Maybe 12,000, something like that. 12,000.
12. That seems a little too big.
Rough. It seems kind of like an odd number for such a.
I'm thinking somewhere between the 10 to 15,000 range on the lower end of that range.
All right.
Well, it's really 15,000. You do know that's like really big. That's a bad guess.
I know.
It's 630 feet.
Is it really?
Yes, it's 630 feet.
You just looked it up.
No, I already knew that.
Just for our audience, I know we have such a broad audience. I'll just do the conversion quickly. 12,000 feet is approximately, let me think here, 33,657.6, I believe, meters.
Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah, that's for our English audience that we have
anywhere
on the
in
podcast.
Anywhere in Europe.
Yeah. But the arch is actually 630 feet.
Okay.
It's not 12,000.
Well,
all right.
Completely off.
Kind of off.
Yes, you were completely off.
But
that is correct.
You know what?
It have you do guesstimates for me.
It isn't about that because when you stand under it, right next to it, it is thousands times bigger than you are, and the sheer size and the colossalness of it is.
It's really beautiful.
Something that you will grasp.
Curious George 2.0. I am going to applaud you for your use of hyperbole there.
Thank you.
In saying 12,000 feet, I'm sure you were knowledgeable of the exact number, but in order to
figurative language
expand on what you thought, your experience of the said structure, to make the point of how grandiose it was, you expanded on that number in feet or meters in order to make it across that point for the reader.
Right. Thank you, Shmo.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. So anyways, there was that arch, and I drove by the Cardinal Stadium, and
Busch Stadium. Yeah. It's called Busch Stadium.
Yeah. Right, Shades. And we went to downtown St. Louis, and they had this old, like, converted train station that they converted into this steam trunk, industrial style type of. It's like a restaurant there. There's a Ferris wheel. There's just a lot of cool things to do, and I went on the Ferris wheel because.
How big was it?
Approximately in feet.
Was it bigger than the arch?
if the arch is 630 feet, I would say it's right around that same ballpark.
That's a big Ferris wheel.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
It's really peaceful ride, honestly, to the top, and then once you're up there, man, that's a really cool view of the city.
Wow, you're stronger than Shades, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine falling off.
And
all right.
Okay, I really enjoyed listening about your trip in St. Louis.
Yeah.
What next location did you go to?
Well,
Go on.
Well, the other thing about St. Louis before I finish there is that it's the most dangerous city in America, actually.
Oh, whoa.
Because it's a border city, so
wow,
a lot of
bordering
unspecified substances that go in and out of the border.
Can you expand on what substances go in and out of the border?
Yes, like the ones that people do to feel differently, I guess.
Like cocaine, crack.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I was thinking,
methamphetamine.
No, I was thinking more to feel differently.
Yeah.
But was it perhaps Japanese sodas? Perhaps was it a?
I really do wish it was that innocent schmo, but
so it wasn't. Nerds, the popular candy that most popular candy in America, I'd argue.
That's even more innocent, but I
think he's talking about some radar stuff here. Restricted
to know what I'm talking about.
Oh, all right.
Was it more of along the lines to what I said?
It was Shades. It was.
Okay, I think we've understood, I think we've understood St. Louis.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't live there, but very cool city to see.
Were you scared walking through it?
No, because I was in the nice parts of St. Louis, I guess.
Okay, good. All right, next place. Tell us.
Next place was Amarillo, Texas.
So wait, you drove all the way from St. Louis to Amarillo, Texas?
Yeah, it was.
How were the rest stops?
Long day.
How are the rest stops?
The rest stops depends where you are.
I'd imagine you'd need them frequently with a Jeep.
Yep, low gas mileage.
Averaged about 30 miles to the gallon. Not too bad if you ask me.
Not good if you're on a highway all the time. I think a Subaru or Toyota would.
Let me clarify. It wasn't a Jeep Wrangler. It was a Jeep Cherokee.
Still doesn't matter. American made.
Looks like I guess I'm talking to some boys who like Japanese cars, eh?
Yep.
Yep.
You can say that again.
Yep.
Okay. But anyways, so we went to Amarillo, and that is the middle of nowhere. But they have this thing called Palo Duro Canyon, and it's sort of like the Grand Canyon, but it's
Why is it like the Grand Canyon?
Well, it's a canyon, obviously, but it has lots of rock formations and.
Can you go into more detail about what a canyon is? A canyon?
Sure. Canyon is like
a canyon.
It's a drop in the normal elevation, and it goes down, and there's lots of stuff that's inside the canyon, and it's like a deep down point of view, I guess.
Do you think canyons are overrated?
No.
Do they perhaps give one a new perspective, something that people who listen to this podcast strive for through literature?
Is there like a rush and adrenaline for you? Is there like a rush and adrenaline for you when you
that new perspective?
Experience
when you drive 11 hours and you're up there at the top and you're just taking in the view? It's something special.
Wow.
I'm totally not you. When I saw the Grand Canyon 10 years ago to this day, let me tell you, I was not as enthusiastic as you are about this canyon in Texas.
I'll grant that you weren't such a literal literature lover back then, but that's besides the point. I digress.
And it was at sunset, so that was beautiful. And
the colors of the
and
sunset. Let's just take a
and the
moment.
cool,
What
yeah.
exactly? Maybe if you'd like to provide the color codes, the hex codes of the.
Only if you're comfortable. Only if you're comfortable with doing
said
that.
colors of the sunset, or
I don't know if I could get that specific, but I'll tell you, it was plum,
plum,
nice light orange,
plum.
Never heard of that.
pink,
so like purple.
So
maybe a little bit.
Green would be the general color of what you're describing.
Not green.
Oh.
Just lots of shades of orange and pinks.
Ooh, shades.
Shades. A lot of shades. Shades, would you like to expand on that, or?
No. Go on. Curious George 2.0 about your trip.
Well, the cool thing about the canyon versus the Grand Canyon is that you can drive into it, and when you're at the top, it looks like a walking trail, but actually it's a road. So you can drive into the canyon.
Wow!
And once you're down there, we found like a little area. We just we like walk through the rock formations, and it wasn't really a hike, but
all right, I'm getting bored. Next part.
Yeah.
So
we're not trying to waste our listeners' time here. Go on.
Yeah. So we went to Cadillac Ranch after that in Amarillo.
Did you go horseback riding?
There's not horses there.
It's a ranch. Of course there's horses.
It's actually a public art piece. It's all these 80s Cadillacs that were stuck into the ground, and then it's legal spray painting. But I honestly think the spray painting sort of ruined it. You can't even really tell it's a car anymore. But
spray painting, as I'm familiar with it, is traditionally in a public setting is not legal.
Right.
Am I going too far to make that assumption?
No, you're completely correct. But this piece is cool because you are invited actually to add your own artistic flair to one of the Cadillacs.
Well, what kind of you say artistic flair? What kind of literature did they have at this Cadillac Ranch? What kind of literature?
No, there wasn't any literature, but it's honestly a simple thing. It's a cornfield, and there's some Cadillacs in the ground, and I don't know. It's not super cool, but something worth seeing.
It's simple.
So you took this simple thing, and you're able to seize the moment, for so to speak.
I guess.
A carpe diem. I would like to just take a moment to take a pause on that.
Schmo, what exactly is a carpe diem?
I'm glad you asked, Shades. Seize the moment, I believe, is the common translation of the Latin phrase and philosophical movement of carpe diem.
When did this philosophical movement start?
I will tell you.
But I feel like Curious George had that carpe diem while he was at this ranch.
Well, actually, Robert Frost, he took on the subject with his poem "Carpe Diem" in I think it was 1938. I don't want to get this wrong, but you guys can look it up if you wish, if you so wish. But with his poem "Carpe Diem," in it, children are encouraged by a figure called age, to be happy, and seize the day of pleasure.
Okay, so Curious George 2.0 did exactly that.
You were, would you say, at the quote unquote Cadillac Ranch? Were you happy, or no?
Yeah, I suppose it was cool. It was cool.
Fess up. Tell us the truth.
No. In all honesty,
It was
I
only
think
cool. Like, it wasn't life changing or anything.
no, it's not a life-changing thing to see.
So, could you make the argument that it was a waste of time for you to go there?
No, it was not a waste of time because where else are you going to see 5 or 6 80s Cadillacs buried in the ground, and you can legally spray paint them?
I don't know.
I'm sure
I can
there's several
search that up
other
on Google right now.
examples.
Cadillacs on the ground.
The ones that you can spray paint?
I'd say
I'm
so.
searching it right now. Oh, I found it.
Okay.
Oh, say.
I experienced that.
You don't need to go into the details of the examples, but I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of counter examples.
Okay. Well, to move on and not to waste our viewers' time.
Well, I mean that's our whole goal here, but go on.
I ate at a Whataburger in Texas.
A Whataburger. Is that in reference?
It's like what a burger, but
Whataburger
all together.
Is that perhaps the contents of the burger have a larger water content, or larger concentration of H2O?
Well, you know how the phrase
lower
is.
osmolarity,
Dihydrogen monoxide.
Well, what exactly was the water potential of said burger? If you can estimate.
Well, I think maybe it was just the way I said it, but it's really what a burger, just all put together. So it sounds like Whataburger.
So
was it good?
It was good,
right.
and everything's bigger in Texas. You know what they say, and
was it better than burgers here?
I'm not familiar with the phrase, but
I think it was Shades.
So you're saying burgers in Texas were better than burgers here in unspecified location?
Yes, because they are big on barbecue and things like that in Texas, and so yes.
I guess I'll have to try it for myself sometime.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Next part.
We went to Breckenridge, Colorado.
Oh, I went there.
Oh,
I went
really,
there.
Shades?
Oh, whoa.
Yep,
we got some
I remember discussing
first-hand experience from our co-hosts here.
Curious George 2.0. Tell us about what you saw, and I'll disagree or agree.
Okay, well, as you know, Shades, it's 10,000 feet high in altitude, and well, at this point of the trip, I lost my voice because I was losing it before we left because my mom had laryngitis, and I guess she gave it to me.
So you would say you lost your voice in a literary sense? You lost what it meant for you to be a writer or a reader of literature, would you say? Or
no, not that deep. I got a cold.
Lost your mode of expression, your creative medium.
Your tone.
In other words, I would not be able to be on this podcast if I had a lost voice right now.
The podcast.
It's all about talking.
Well, talking, but not only talking, but expressing one's ideas.
Expressing one's emotions,
right?
Their thoughts, their feelings,
their creative medium, and to lose your voice in that creative medium is really something that you shouldn't do. You should try and avoid, typically.
Right. Well, I popped a lot of airborne and some Robitussin, and I went mute for 2 days.
So when you were in Breckenridge, but the air quality is different there, correct? It's very thin air, very thin,
dry.
Very dry. Did you experience headaches at all, or fatigue?
I at first I thought I could handle it, and I was doing good. And we went to this Mexican restaurant, and it had a really cool view. It was outside, and you could see the mountains right there. And a lake with a
I
ski.
remember that. It's just a beautiful location. I went there one time in April when the snow was still on the
Oh
ground.
wow, yeah. I mean, I went there and the snow was still at the top of the mountain.
Sick, bro. I went there and I skied there. Like,
Oh wow.
did you ski there, bro?
I did not. You one up me, Shades.
Yeah, bro. Come at
All
me.
right, guys, calm down, please.
Well, let me
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Can I share my experience real quick?
Oh well, I've been talking a lot, so I mean, if Schmo's okay with it, sure.
All right, go on.
All I'm gonna say is that Breckenridge, Colorado. You know what your friend is there?
What?
Cases of bottled water.
I agree with that.
You have to hydrate there. It's not a joke. Walking up one flight of stairs, you feel like you're walking up 10 flight of stairs here. Or unspecified location.
Unspecified location. I'll cut that together. But all right. Go on.
So yes. So I got defeated, and I was only there for a day, and so I kind of just, unfortunately, sat in the hotel and just took in the view of the mountains because I could not get up. I was just really
sick, right?
sick. Yeah.
You felt
powerless.
For our for those who are familiar with the water and being on the water for long periods of time on a locomotive that is able to travel on the water, it might be similar to, say, a sea sickness, perhaps.
I guess it's the feeling you get, but it's altitude sickness, and it's
So it's the same thing, is what you're saying.
Essentially, it gives you the same feeling.
All right.
Yeah.
And
so, but my friends hiked Quandary Peak, if anyone's familiar, and
yes, I'm very familiar with Quandary Peak, you say?
Yes.
A summit in Colorado.
Right.
Yes,
right.
It's in fact the just something I remembered, from my various readings.
Yeah.
I believe it's the highest summit in the 10-mile range in the Rocky Mountains of North America. Most commonly climbed Fort Near and Colorado.
I would not be able to climb Quandary Peak.
That is right. Yes, and I give them much credit for being able to handle it.
Its prominence, just off the top of my head,
and they
1,106, was it?
That is right, Shmo. That is right.
Hey, what can I say?
What can you say?
Just off the top of my head. Continue.
They saw mountain goats up there, actually, which was very cool. Not every day you see a mountain goat.
I would argue that the mountain goat is a bit of a symbol of the podcast.
Why is that?
Well,
yeah, elaborate, please.
Well, let's just take a moment to think about a mountain goat. When do you see a mountain goat? A mountain goat.
Almost in the mountain? In a mountain?
I would say the mountains. I would say you see them in the mountains. And just like the listeners of this podcast, we climb, and we go to places that are traditionally not gone to, which I'm not sure if you are aware of the mountain goat, but it's commonly seen on small ridges in said mountain that we climb, and that very, very, very little amount of people would ever be able to accomplish.
Shmo, we really talk about other people's emotions, and it's so small and tiny, just like those little ridges that we can see mountain goats. I think
we go where people don't go.
So you're saying that those snapshots are what makes all the difference.
Exactly.
Yep. I think mountain goats, just like Curious George 2.0 here, is the epitome of this podcast.
Epitome. of this podcast, and they're not afraid to go to those places and discuss the things that people, frankly, in this business are afraid to discuss.
Yeah, well, we're not afraid to say it. They're afraid to
This is
discuss
real.
it. We're real here. They're not.
I like the comparison.
Did we ask?
No, but you got the opinion.
Okay, sick. Go on.
So anyways, after that, I went to Moab, Utah, which was a drop in 6,000 feet.
And then you went to see the arches, right?
Right.
And then you went to California, right?
You seem to be very familiar, Shades, with the locations at Curious George 2.0. Did you perhaps have a discussion about this? This is the first time I've ever talked to Curious George 2.0 as in regards to his trip. Have you perhaps prepared?
Well, I'm just guessing that
this
he
podcast
keeps on.
Well,
not,
to be honest, Shades was close, but not spot on.
No cigar.
Close, but no cigar.
Yeah.
Just like they say, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Well, Shades, do you want me to go on, or do you want to tell the story, huh?
Well, I'm pretty sure you went to Arches, Utah, and you're like, oh, look at this arch. It's a big rock. Ha.
Oh,
am I right?
It's just a big rock to you, huh? It's not the journey up. It's not the 3 mile.
Did I stutter?
Shades, I'm gonna have to call you out here. You're being awfully rude to our Curious George 2.0
I'm the one being rude.
guest here.
I'm the one being rude.
Yeah.
You want to throw hands, Rappley? You want to throw hands?
Yeah. How about you kickflip your way on out of here, buddy?
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, I'm going to swallow my pride here and say, Curious George 2.0, go on. This isn't over, Schmo.
Well,
it isn't.
Maybe you guys can settle this after the podcast is over.
All right.
Maybe we can. Maybe we can't. You guys might not see us ever on the podcast together again after this.
That's the danger of talking about those small ridges, those topics. Go on.
I'm done talking. Go on.
Okay. So when I went to Arches, we did a 3 mile hike to the top to see a double arch, which was it makes you question how it all got there. It's like perfectly an arch and a rock formation, and it was a tough 3 mile hike up that mountain in 99 degree weather. And
where
and
if you're gonna explore the world, do it right. You did exactly that. Going in 100-degree weather.
It's hard, but the once you're up there, it makes it all the more satisfying. And once you get to that arch and you everyone takes pictures under it, and you look over and there's a giant drop behind you. All you're dead. But we don't have to go there. And a lot the rocks there are very iron. They have a lot of iron in them, and they're super red.
Iron.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's iron in the ridges? What makes you say there's iron?
I'm not a geologist, but there are very red dirt looking sort of rocks.
A reddish tone, and you're saying that's
right.
You're saying that's so to speak a symptom or a common occurrence for the something containing a high concentration of iron.
Correct.
All right, go on.
Well, I think these massive features of the arches, they were formed as the paradox formation that ascended through less dense bedrock,
Yes.
It began to fracture the Navajo and Charlotte sandstones. And that resulted in the jointing at the points of least resistance. I think that's what what made the arches in Utah.
Based on your experience with geological structures.
Yes.
That are not common.
Right. And anyways, it's a very small town, but it is super cool and lots of outdoor stuff to do, and lots of people go off-roading in the sand, in the like sand dunes over there, and lots of cool stuff. And then at night we went stargazing in another national park called Canyonlands.
And exploring the world.
And I gotta tell you, it is really, really different than the unspecified location from which we are all recording this podcast from, because where we live, there is a lot of light pollution.
Not live, but we are recording.
Right.
We are recording in this. We don't necessarily live here, but the unspecified location,
right.
You're saying has a lot of light pollution.
Right, because of certain factors that I'm sure you understand. So it is not really when it is night.
Go into detail about the science of light pollution, but I'm sure our listeners are well aware of it.
Why that happens, yes. So, anyways, when it gets dark here, it's dark, but a lot of artificial light that is keeping things bright. And in the Canyonlands, there is zero light pollution. So it is pitch black. It is really, really dark. And you see the stars, and it's really easy to see all the constellations, all the stars, how the sun sets.
Yawn.
You can see the sunset in the black sky.
Yawn.
Would you care to expand on that, Shades? Why are you yawning? A symptom of fatigue, tiredness. Why are you tired of Curious George's 2.0's explanation?
I'm sorry, Curious George.
The sight he saw, the sight that brought him a feeling of exploration.
All right, well, here's my thoughts, Curious George 2.0. Yeah. I really don't think you're that curious. I really don't.
Oh.
All right, I think we gave you the wrong nickname, to be honest, because...
Nickname? That's his name.
Excuse me.
I really think that I could just go outside my unspecified location and just look up, and I can see stars too, and stargaze.
You cannot see them like this.
Oh yeah, sure.
I live right close to you I'm recording close to this unspecified location from which you're at, and I gotta tell you, it is not the same. And you see, I'll tell you this: you cannot see the sunset. That like after the sunset fades away, you cannot see those colors in the pitch black dark sky, because you can only see them when the sun is setting, and then it just turns black.
Why does that interest you so much? Why is it interesting to see all those colors?
Because it's cool. That's why.
Whoa! Hold on.
Whoa! Not this podcast. That's not this podcast.
That is that's not this podcast.
Oh
buddy.
my! Whoa! Someone turn up the heat in here.
That is not this podcast.
Not
buddy.
here, Curious George 2.0. That
is not the kind of language we support on this podcast.
That gives us a reason to kick you off right now.
You were the one who wanted to come on here. I will boot you off.
You were the one who wanted to come on here, and you just did that.
My bad.
That's not a good impression. The first to keep, and now this.
We were going to invite you for another episode. I don't know.
Open the invitation, but
invitations are closed. I will dial it back.
You'd have to do more than that, buddy.
It's a big no.
All
right, go on. What's the next part of your trip? You went to California.
I think
right?
Shades likes the beef on this podcast. Is what I'm saying.
I think he likes to get get in the filth of discussion and really find
Let's be
what's...
honest. Can I be honest here, guys?
Yeah.
I want to get inside your head. And when you just cursed, when you just swore on our podcast, that just shows I got inside your head. You're not tough enough for this podcast.
Oh, you know what, Shades? I don't think you've seen enough of the world yet.
That is fighting language. We're going to have to take this to the debate stage, perhaps.
I guess so.
Maybe on a part 2. We'll see.
We'll see.
Well, closing thoughts, Curious George 2.0. What was your final impressions
of Canyon? That
no, just in general, the whole trip. I think we're gonna wrap this up soon.
Well, I am not even close to done.
He's got a little bit more to explain here, but
yeah. Maybe we should save that question for later, Shades.
How about we save half of this for part 2?
Oh, that's a good idea.
But just before you get off, what are your final impressions, of the trip that you took?
What would you say? What's somebody asked you, hey, what's the takeaway? What's the takeaway of this adventure you took? What can I learn?
Sure. I would have to say it teaches you how to manage your money on your own, how to take care of yourself on your own.
Money management, financial advice.
It teaches you that there is a lot more to see and a lot of different lives that people lead than the one that you do. And it's interesting, and you just got to appreciate how beautiful this country is, and
in this unspecified country.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you look back at life, hopefully you see a movie in your head, and those kinds of really cool pictures are in it.
Right before you die, right? You see that picture.
Let's not get in the dumps here. Let's not get in the dumps.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Shmuel, you're right. But we thank you, Curious George 2.0, for coming on to this podcast and sharing your wisdom, and we can't wait to do part 2 with you. All right. I forgive you for the mistake that you made, but
a serious one, but we're forgiving on the podcast. But
well, it can be cut out. It can be cut out.
Sure, it can.
Yeah. Easy to say when you're not the one cutting it out.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we after that went to Kingman, Arizona, and San Diego.
We're not going to get into that.
Save this for part 2. Save it for part 2.
Viewers, be ready for part 2.
All right. Thanks, Curious George 2.0.
All right.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
If you like this podcast with Curious George 2.0, then we'll do a part 2 in the future. Let us know if you want a part 2 where we can get more in depth about George's future travels. In our next episode of the podcast, there might not be a special guest. We're not telling you who.
Even if there is one.
Even if there is or is not one. We don't know yet.
We're not going to tell you.
Don't ask us. All
right.
If you email us, we will not respond. All right. Well,
all right.
I think that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. And
we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Deuces.
Ciao.